Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everyone. It's lovely to see so many people here from all over the world and the membership. So I'm really thrilled that you all joined us today to celebrate 20 years of IXP collaboration and EURIX. As we come to the end of today's session, I thought it would be good to reflect on the last 20 years of EURIX and a little bit of the story of IXPs from the EURIX perspective. There we go. So before EURIX came along, we had the first IXPs. So the first IXPs actually were the first IXPs we saw in Europe anyway, was VKIX and NIX. So the starting time of both of those is very close in 1993. So I think it's nice to recognise those first IXPs, and it's also nice that they are still, active within the EURIX community and are still very operational still today. So congratulations to our oldest IXPs. Before and following 1993 and the first couple of IXPs, obviously there was a lot more. Many more IXPs were established, and today, 28 years on, according to the IXP database anyway, in Europe, we count 245 IXPs. So that's gone from, the two back in 1993, which if you think about it, wasn't that long ago, to now when we have 245 in that short space of time. Then in 2001 was the beginning of EURIX. But before, of course, we had EURIX, there was, and then with the large number of internet exchange points coming about, it was at the RIPE meetings, actually, that the IXPs used to get together. So that was back in during, I think, RIPE 40 something, where a number of IXPs came together and decided to form the association. They needed a natural EURIX at the time. The EIX working group was a natural place for IXPs coming together. But then over time, as the topic started to get more and more technical and more diverse, I guess, there was a need for a special place, not just the EIX working group, but a different place for IXPs to come together and share what was going on at their IXPs. Remember, this is the very early days, and so there was a lot of learning going on. I mean, nobody really knew. Who knew, 28 years later, we would still be here talking about the value and the benefit and IXPs in the future. So what we have here is actually a photo of the first board. We do actually have a couple of people missing, unfortunately. Jan from BNX and Fergus was also at in the original board. But here you have it. That's the first EURIX board. As we talk about all the firsts, of course, the first logo. And before I talk about that, I should mention that, it was thanks to Serge and who actually who started EURIX and was the first secretariat. Following the first board meeting in 2001, the secretariat was awarded to AMSIX. And that was it. That was the beginning. And I think that was that was the first logo, which was put together by Serge's wife, Marika, at the time. And this logo actually stayed with us for 13 years. So I think that was also not quite the plan, but it did. Then, of course, came the forums, and this is everyone at the first EURIX forum, which was in Barcelona in 2002. For those of you that were there, I'm sure that brings back a few memories. But just to say here that even, back then, the forums were key. And as EuroIX, the forums have always been, the key thing. When we've done surveys and we've surveyed the membership, the forums always come up as the one thing that the members don't want to change. So, and I have to admit as well, over the last couple of years since the virus, it's very sad that we've not been able to come together and have those discussions. And as Barry said as well in his talk, it's so important for us to continue to do that. And hopefully it's not going to be too long until we can again. Another first was, of course, a discussion about root servers. So while I was doing research for this presentation, I kind of got me thinking, like, when did the root server topic come up, and how did that all kind of come about? And so the actual topic of root servers came up first in EuroIX in 2004. Which was a while ago, but we didn't actually start seeing implementations of root servers until 2008. During that time as well, the diversity of root servers was key, and I couldn't actually find a logo for Quagga, but many of you who were around back then will remember Quagga and the EuroIX version of Quagga that we were working on, just so that there was some diversity out there. And today it's still something that we talk about, having a diverse root servers, and it's something that I think we'll continue to talk about as root servers become such key parts of the internet exchange point. So while I was, as I said, I was doing the research in the for this presentation, I came across some of the discussions that were had back then. So when we had a membership of 30 back in 2005, there was a question posed to the membership: does your IXP have a root server? There was 5 that answered yes, and 1 that answered no. Is your root server being used? 2 said a little bit. Yes, but not in great anger, said 2. And 1 said fairly often. How that has changed. And it wasn't until 2008, and this was actually taken from a conversation between Mike Hughes and Nick Hilliard, where they said there's enough of us in the community now using root servers to make this a worthwhile agenda item. So after 2008, I think we've seen root servers on the agenda at pretty much every single forum, and and it continues to be an important part of internet exchange points. We've also in the last couple of years started to have workshops which are dedicated to working on root servers and IXPs. So then we move on to, if you like, the next stage. So we have the first forum, and then we go into the learning and sharing. So after the association was formed, the whole point of the EuroIX was the learning and sharing and growing. So how did we do this? The next step in continuing to learn and share with each other, in 2004, we had our first benchmarking report. Again, initiated by the membership, and as IXPs were, as the number of IXPs was growing, it was important to have goals and for IXPs to be able to compare themselves to other IXPs and see where they were standing in many different things. When you talk about pricing, you talk about the membership, you talk about commercial aspects as well. Also, staffing. How much does it cost to hire an engineer at the IXP? So all these topics were things that nobody really knew, and so the benchmarking allowed IXPs to share this information anonymously, and then we would report the results in an aggregated form. This has now been going on for 16 years. As I say that, I should also let the members know that the benchmarking is currently open. So if you're an IXP and a member, please take the survey so that we can continue to report back this wonderful information to you. So who remembers when 10 meg ports were 248 euros a month? Anyone? So, it's while, things change, I think it's always interesting to kind of look back. And here's the port prices, for example, from the benchmarking report last year, where we don't even see the 10 meg ports here, but you can compare, in 15 years, the change, what you used to pay for a 10 meg port is now roughly what you pay for a gig port. So there you go, as things grow and change. In 2010, we started looking at traffic patterns at IXPs and produced a report following the World Cup. And at that time, we were amazed to see the different traffic patterns that the live streaming events were having on IXPs. We'd looked at many different IXPs. Here's what happened in Vienna. This was during a match between Germany and Serbia. Then we've got some stats from LONAP here, where this game took place during the afternoon. Here we go, Wednesday, the 23rd of June at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, where I'm sure everyone was busy working, but, probably just had the football on in the background, as you do. So it just shows this was like, one of the first times that we started to correlate traffic with different events. Nowadays, we plan for these events. If there's anything going on, from sporting events to elections, the IXPs are prepared, because we automatically know that if there's something going on, there's probably going to be a surge in traffic. Then we and while learning and sharing has always been, a core part of EuroIX, and something that we'll always strive to achieve, everything we do comes from the community. And one of the first projects that we worked on, many of you will remember, was the EuroIX film. So we did this back in 2010, and who would have thought an analogy of eating cereal would have described peering so well and in so many different languages that it's still being used today. And it's great. It's been translated into 13 languages, and I still get lots of people asking me about using the film for education purposes, at governments, at regulators. It's a very simple way in which IXPs have been described, and a very simple example of how the internet works. In 2011, there were two events that I guess two big things that happened at EuroIX, and those of you that are looking at this picture will remember this forum for sure, because it still gets rated as one of the best forums the EuroIX has had, and that of course is in Catania, which was the 18th EuroIX forum. I still haven't heard all the stories of what happened there, but I'm sure that if you find some people that were present, they'd be more than happy to tell you over a drink. So in 2011, we also said goodbye to Serge, who had built the association for 10 years to what it was. And in 2011, Serge sadly left, and I joined. And here we are celebrating EuroIX's 10th anniversary. And this was during the RIPE 63 event in Vienna, where VIX was also celebrating its 10 years. So it was an interesting year for EuroIX. It wasn't until 2013 that we started to do some work on our branding, and we released our new website and logo, which I'm pleased to say we still have today. And as an industry, and IXPs, and as EuroIX matured, we all started to mature and grow up. The board thought it was the right time to become independent. And it wasn't until 2016 that EuroIX actually stepped away from the AMSIC secretariat, and EURIX had its own secretariat. So that was in 2016. So for 16 years, the secretariat of EURIX was actually with AMSIC. Sorry, keep it. Our projects have always been key to us, and I want to, of course, mention the IXP database here. The IXP database wasn't a new project by any means. The IXP database was originally the EURIX database, which was started pretty much the same time that EURIX was started. It wasn't until the formation of the IXF and our other sister companies, APIX in Asia and LACIX in South America and AFIX in Africa, that came together, and we thought, well, there's no point of each of us having individual databases. We may as well have one big database, a global database under the IXF, and that's when the IXP database was born. It's been one of our key projects since. And, with the introduction of the JSON schema, it brought a standard way for IXPs to report their data. And I'm proud to say that today we have 271 IXPs who automate their data to the IXP database. Other projects that we have is the peering toolbox. We've got the Mentor X program, the fellowship, all the online events that we've been doing over the last year as well. And it's all done to continue to grow and improve the community. So, the future. We've already had a really, really interesting panel today about the future of IXPs. So I'm not sure if I can actually add anything to it, but it looks like I'm going to repeat some of the things that were mentioned during that session. And those key things are not for EURIX as a platform to provide this information and share the knowledge of this information with the IXPs. But, we clearly know that the regulation is coming, and it's probably going to get stronger, especially with the NIS2. And many, many more IXPs are going to be affected by this. Automation, again, we've talked about automation, we've talked about standardization and the importance of standardization, especially as the community grows, not just the IXP community, but we're talking about the peering community, the interconnect community. All these things are going to be key to continue to drive internet exchange points forward, and be in a place to make that change, the positive change, make that change, not follow the changes, but actually make the changes. I've talked about the benchmarking and analysis, and I think this is going to continue to be important. I think it's important for anyone to take a look at themselves. So why not take a look at your IXP and see where you are? How do you compare with others? What can you do to improve your services? Security is huge, and we touched upon that a little bit earlier. But as the internet grows, I think security is going to be key. And of course, there's nothing that EURIX can do to secure EURIX, but via the forums and the online events and by sharing the information, what we can do is bring that information to you so that it helps you grow and improve your services. And of course, services. I think, we've talked a lot about the services, and I think that's also going to be key for internet exchange points. We've heard from Barry on IXP Manager, which is a great service that the IXPs, take up to provide to their membership. So it's not just about the service that, EURIX necessarily provides, but it's a service that the IXPs are providing to their members and customers as well. So there's a lot to go on, and I think the next 10 years are going to be really, really exciting and interesting, and to see how all of this is going to change and develop and evolve. So with that, I'm going to end the presentation with what was my last forum. Unfortunately, I was not able to join everyone but Toulouse was my last forum. So I've got a picture here with everyone there. And I hope that, we will be back to face-to-face meetings really soon, and continue to grow this community.